Absolutely jaw-dropping undercover journalism hit the wires from Lauren Windsor. And yes, that's Lauren Windsor from the House of Windsor. Lauren attended an event allowing access to Supreme Court justices and approached both Justice Alito and Chief Justice Roberts and recorded those conversations. But she also approached Martha Ann Alito, wife of Justice Alito, and did the same thing. Presented herself as a diehard conservative Catholic and huge supporter of both Martha Ann and Justice Alito. The things that Martha Ann Alito said in this interview to a complete stranger will curl your hair. It won't curl mine because, let's face it, there's none left to curl. But Martha Ann Alito made clear that she is declaring war on America. Let's listen to a part of that interview.
Let's stop before we go here.
Everything that you're going through, I just want to tell you that, like,
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's not okay, though. It's not okay.
It's okay. It's okay because if they come back to me, I'll get them. I'm going to be liberated, and I'm going to get them.
What do you mean by...
There's a 5-year defamation statute of limitations.
But I don't know what you mean by they, like
the media.
Oh, okay.
Come on, I'll get you. Come on. You know, I was denigrated early on when we first came to town. And the woman then won a Pulitzer Prize. She was commenting on my clothes. She said that I wore a baby blanket one day. And the next time I had on a lazy boy recliner pattern suit.
Now, the shocking thing about this initial part of the interview is that it's only the tip of the iceberg. And sure, we can hope that this iceberg will bring down the titanic egos of the Alitos. But let's just break down this first part. Not only does Martha Ann declare her vengeance and talk about how she's going to get them, but she laughingly asserts how she's going to do it in a way that will skirt the law, relishing in the irony of abusing statute of limitations rules. My, how nice to be that clever and how to use the weak points of the law to your advantage. But the other truly mind-numbing part of this interview is Alito's motivation for getting back at the media, because a journalist made fun of her clothing. It is hard to fathom that anyone can sink to this level of pettiness. Her husband sits on the highest court in the country. They own a summer home on Long Beach Island, on the Jersey Shoah, which admittedly is not exactly Saugatuck on Lake Michigan, and it certainly isn't Mackinac Island, but it isn't exactly Coney Island either. So seriously, this is a woman of privilege who runs around in ultra-elite circles, and she's hell-bent on revenge against the media, and as we'll discover, most of America, because a journalist made fun of her clothes. Well, next time, try dressing in Kevin Hall or Anne Sui Designs, and you won't have nearly as many life problems. But to listen to her imagined taunting of the media, come on, I'll get you. That's just chilling. This is a woman who runs around dreaming and plotting her revenge. How is it possible to be this consumed and this petty? Well, the rest of the interview shows how. Listen to Lauren ask why the media picks on Martha Ann.
But why do you think they're coming after you?
They are.
I mean, like, the whole, like, appeal to have heaven flag was, like, bullshit, right?
Right, but that's, you know, the other thing is the feminazis believe that he should control me.
Yeah.
So you go to hell. He never controls me.
Yes, she just said feminazis. Seriously. Is Martha Ann married to Sam Alito or Rush Limbaugh, the bellicose BS artist of right-wing media fame? And notice the twisted logic here. Alito claims that the feminazis hate her because they think that her husband should be controlling her. Little update there, Martha Ann. Feminists believe that women should be free of any structures that attempt to control or coerce them. The Feminazis you despise are the ideology that you are actually articulating here. And yet, with all the confidence that a closed mind will create, Alito confidently asserts that they'll go to hell. And here, in a nutshell, are the two parameters from which this small-minded woman works from: Nazism and a completely warped Christianity. Listen to what Martha Ann Alito has to say when Lauren plays the victim card to her.
They're persecuting you, and you're like a convenient stand-in for anybody who's religious.
Look at me. I'm German. I'm German. My heritage is German. You come after me, I'm going to give it back to you. And there will be a way. It doesn't have to be now, but there will be a way. They will know. Just don't worry about it.
I'm German? I'm going to give it back to you? What is that supposed to mean? Is that actually a reference to killing Jews? Or is it just a simple, we started 2 world wars, so we mean business when it comes to violence and violent reprisals? Because let me tell you something, the latter of those two is not exactly comforting. And it gets even more twisted when she asserts that there will be a way, and that once her vengeance is taken in that way, the people she strikes at will know that it's her. Well, congratulations, Martha Ann. You've graduated from merely vengeful to full-board masochistic. It's not enough to inflict pain on people. Martha Ann wants to make sure they know that she is the source of that pain. I'm starting to think Trump being a fan of Hannibal Lecter is not such a bad thing after all. This woman is truly Nazi. So this is some pretty twisted stuff, but it gets even more twisted. How does Alito justify these masochistic desires to wreak vengeance? With the Bible, of course. And not just any part of the Bible. You know, those parts talking about God smoting sinners or hellfire and brimstone. Because let's face it, who amongst us does not like a little hellfire and brimstone? I mean, when push comes to shove, it makes great visuals. Am I right? But no, it's not God's judgment or vengeance that motivates Alito. It's God's mercy. She actually quotes Psalm 27 as her justification.
God, you read the Bible. Psalm 27 is my psalm. Mine. Psalm 27. The Lord is my God and my rock. Of whom shall I be afraid?
Psalm 27, which is all about the way that having faith in God gives courage that your enemies cannot harm you. Alito twists that into permission to smote your enemies. Small-minded does not even begin to cover that gross misinterpretation. But her twisted understanding of Christianity goes even further than that. It's hard to believe, actually, no, it isn't. But in addition to the media, feminists, and liberals of any ilk, there's another group that Martha Ann Alito hates and can't wait for judgment on. And that is the LGBTQ plus community. Martha Ann is going to get them as well. Listen to this next bone-chilling clip in response to Lauren Windsor asserting that religious people have to take a stand.
You know what I want? I want a Sacred Heart of Jesus flag because I have to look across the lagoon at the Pride flag for the next month.
Exactly.
And he's like, oh, please don't put up a flag. I said, I won't do it because I'm deferring to you. But when you are free of this nonsense, I'm putting it up and I'm going to send them a message every day. Maybe every week I'll be changing the flags. There'll be all kinds. I made a flag in my head. This is how I satisfy myself. I made a flag. It's white and it's yellow and orange flames around it. And in the middle is the word vergogna. Vergogna in Italian means shame. Vergogna. 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 Shame, shame, shame on you.
Now, if you're wondering what rock Martha Ann Alito crawled out from under to espouse such hateful attitudes towards the LGBTQ plus community, I can tell you, she thinks it's from the Rock of Ages. Former Catholic schoolgirl and syndicated radio host Stephanie Miller must be having a field day with this. Alito is so small-minded that she doesn't even remotely grasp the irony of her desire to fly a Sacred Heart of Jesus flag. Because the theological concept of the Sacred Heart of Jesus is a late medieval, pre-modern concept that was a reaction against medieval Christian theology. That theology that emphasized sin and God's judgment and justified why peasants belonged in a place of suffering and vulnerability. The concept of the Sacred Heart of Jesus pushes back against those beliefs and asserts instead that God is the God of love and mercy, the God of forgiveness. In other words, God accepts you for who you are and loves you. You can't get any further away from how Martha Ann Alito thinks. Although, it's not a bad idea for how allies to the LGBTQ plus community can co-opt her idea for a symbol of hate and restore it to its original meanings. So, thanks, Martha Ann? No, of course not. Because who amongst us does not feel the contents of their stomach try and surge upward when this twisted little woman talks about the flag she designs in her head and then uses Italian, the language of love, as a way to try and repress the LGBTQ plus community? Shame? The only thing shameful here, Martha Ann, is the war you have declared, not just against the LGBTQ plus community, but against most of America. In addition to being a highly warped individual, Martha Ann Alito is a poster child for how the left must mobilize this November and create a blue tsunami that will not only keep the presidency Democratic, but give supermajorities in the House and Senate. And for their part, the Democratic establishment has got to start running on changing the Supreme Court. Yes, expanding it to 13 justices and putting in term limits on voting, but also impeaching both Alito and corrupt Clarence Thomas. Alito and his wife need to be sent packing. Return them to the lagoon from whence they came. I'm Anthony Vincent Gallo for Occupy Democrats.